and welcome back. I'm here today with Reka Jablonkai, who is the leader of the Academic English for Business program at Hertfordshire Business School. Thank you for joining me today, Reka.
Thank you for your invitation.
Thank you. So let's start a bit about telling us a little bit about your background and how you came to work at the University of Hertfordshire.
Well, at university I studied modern languages, more specifically English and German, and there we studied the language, linguistics, literature, and also how to teach languages, pedagogy and language teaching methodology. And I started my career as a language teacher at a university back in Hungary, and this university specialized in economics and business and international relations. So the need of students at the university is mainly academic English and also English for specific purposes. So this was what I was really interested in the language use of certain professions, how language is used in professional contexts, for example in business negotiations, or how to write business emails. And in this context I became interested in corpus linguistics. A corpus in linguistics is a collection of texts in an electronic format. And with special software you can analyze these texts. For example, you can identify the most frequent words, certain grammatical features, or what are the words that often co-occur with each other. And when you identify these features, these can be used as a basis for developing language teaching programs. So I analyzed business texts and professional texts and developed courses using this information. Now the other aspect of language use is that when people use language to communicate with each other, often they use a common language, especially, for example, in international business negotiations, they use English, but they come from different cultural backgrounds. And what I'm also interested in is how this cultural background influences their language use, influences their communication, and how people kind of adapt to different communication styles, or is it possible, or to what extent is it possible to adapt to different communication styles?
It's very fascinating and obviously a very contemporary kind of a topic in this kind of globalized age that we talk so much about it. So, I mean, you said your research areas and kind of linguistics and so on. It's quite broad and so on. Do you want to talk a bit more about the specific project you're working on at the moment?
Yes, there is an ongoing project I'm actually doing with two other colleagues, Champing Du from the business school and Gwyneth James from humanities. And the title of the research project is Superdiversity in the University Classroom. So you might wonder what superdiversity is. And this is actually a term that was coined by Vertovec, an anthropologist, who wanted to address the complexities of diversity, what we have around us today. And what he uses this term for is to try to explain that it is not enough to look at nationality and ethnicity when we look at people's cultural background, but that's a more complex issue than that. So you have to look at migration channels, legal status, religion, cultural values and cultural practices. So diversity, let's say at a higher level, which doesn't necessarily mean that there are more cultures represented in a certain space or in the classroom in my case, but that there are different layers of cultural diversity. I can just give you an example from the interviews I had with students. So for example, at the business school, in a tutorial, what we would have even at the postgraduate and undergraduate level is that you've got 20 students, but that 20 students might represent 10, 15 different countries and 15 different languages. So as a result of this kind of super diversity, what we have is what are multicultural and multilingual spaces. Okay. So we can consider the university classroom as a kind of super diverse space with students and even lecturers having different cultural and different linguistic background. And from the interviews, just to give you an example of a student, and actually there are several students in this same situation, is that they study here at a UK university. They actually speak very good English, but they do speak maybe 3 other languages or 2 other languages. For example, Urdu, because they come from a Pakistani family. And they moved to the UK when they were 10 or 9 years old. And before that, they lived in the Netherlands. So they also speak Dutch. And some of them report that they use these languages in different contexts. Like one of them mentioned that because their parents speak Urdu and they speak Dutch and English in addition to Urdu, when they quarrel, with their siblings, they speak Dutch because that's the language that their parents don't really understand. Yeah. And obviously they would speak English with their friends at university.
That's fascinating. I mean, I can relate to that coming from a diverse background as well. And that's interesting. And also, I mean, thanks for sharing that, because it's a great example as well of how the interdisciplinary approach that we are trying to kind of nourish here, the linguistic and the business component, but also the educational side of it. It's a fascinating project. Thanks for coming in today to speak about that. And as always, you can find more about that on the website as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.